So going from 0 to 1, I wanted to give you some sort of comments around debt, equity, your team, your balance sheet. So really on the debt side, right? So you're going to start, you might need a recourse bank loan, Freddie, SBL, Fannie on your debt. On your equity, it might just be yourself, right? Or you might have to raise a million to, let's say, $3 million from sophisticated accredited investors. And so that might come 50,000, 100,000 a piece. So think about, review your balance sheet, figure out if you're going to do the deal on your own or if you're going to go out and raise money or raise equity from investors. In terms of your team, listing brokers, mortgage brokers, property managers, attorneys, insurance brokers, all those guys you need on your team. And then your balance sheet, right? Can you qualify on your own or do you need additional KPs, right? So look at this chart and figure out, what am I missing? So you have the debt piece, you understand that. But now, who else do you need to build your team around? How are you going to do the equity? And then also, how are you going to qualify for these loans, right? So the balance sheet that you need. In terms of deal type, really, B and C properties are what you're going to be after. Probably under 100 units for your first deal. Purchase price, 10 million and under is probably going to work for most people. So really build the team, find deals, qualify the debt, and then raise equity, and all of this in a target market. So definitely pick a market, narrow in, and make sure that that is a market that you want to be in. So let's jump in. So let's start about the challenges. Really qualifying for the loan. Getting that multifamily experience and balance sheet is going to be your challenge up front. Second is going to be raising the equity, right? Or saving enough for the down payment. It's going to take some time, whether you're raising it from investors or just doing it on your own and saving the money. And then having listing brokers take you seriously is a big thing. So definitely leverage people on your team for that associated credibility, so that, like, I've closed with that listing broker, that helps, right? And they've worked with that property manager on properties, that helps a lot too. And then fourth is really just buying a large enough property to have third-party property management. So that might be 50, 60, 70 units compared to if you do a 10 unit or 15 unit deal, that's probably going to need self-management. In terms of a case study, I worked with someone who started probably about 5 years ago, and they essentially just bought a 37 unit deal here in Dallas, and only did that first deal with a recourse bank loan, and then waited 18 months until that deal performed, and he was able to sell it, and then 1031 that into 87 units, right? And then he was able to grow that even to 100 plus unit deals over on the syndication side over time. And he just built his track record slowly. He still does recourse bank loans, but then he's moved into Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. So think of it as a progression as you move up. And, doing that first deal is definitely the biggest hurdle, and getting that one done. So once you get that one done, now we move into 1 to 20. So this can be 1 to 10, 1 to 20, 1 to 30. Each successive deal gets easier and easier. Your debt pretty much stays the same. Fannie Mae definitely has no maximum. Freddie Mac, instead of the SBL, you might move over to their conventional program. Non-recourse bridge is definitely still there. They want to do bigger loans. Maybe if you move into the A space, you're maybe getting into life insurance, but really the debt is really Fannie, Freddie, non-recourse bridge. On the equity, if you still have your own equity to invest into 20 deals, that is great. But most people are going to have to start raising $5 to $10 million equity chunks. And so that's going to come from sophisticated accredited investors. It might, like if you're into your fifth, sixth deal, it might come from private equity providers. Your team changes a little bit, right? So you still need to find deals. You still need to raise debt and equity. But now it is more difficult to do on your own. So you might have to start working with an asset manager, and where that person has a portfolio of 5 to 10 properties, and then you hire a couple of those people to manage your properties. And then also investor relations, right? So if you start, let's say you go out and raise $10 million at 100,000 a piece, you're gonna need 100 guys, right? So that's a lot of investors to manage and a lot of K1s to do. And so investor relations is gonna become a lot more important. And on the balance sheet side, as you scale up, you're going to need more net worth, more liquidity to sign on these loans. And so your balance sheet might not be exponentially growing based on the deal sizes that you're going for. So you might need a couple more KPs, or even a large key principal. So someone signing a loan guarantor to sign with you on these deals to qualify for these loans. Your target deal type, still B and C. but I think your unit size is, or unit um, number of units in a property is going to increase. So 150 to 350 is a good size for that 1 to 20, and you're going to be looking at probably 15 to 35 million. So really, at this point, it's really about building that internal team and raising larger amounts of equity to buy large properties that really do scale. So, at 200 units, you can have 4 people run the entire place. At 300, maybe 6 people. And so that just really scales and is smaller. Payroll becomes a smaller and smaller percentage of your overall revenue. And so, challenges, I would say qualifying for loans, right? These loans are getting quite large, $20 million loans, $10 to $15 million loans. So you're going to need additional people to sign with you. The equity, right, is the big thing, right? So I can give you the loan for 75, 80% of the money. That's great, but you still have to raise that 20, 25% equity. And then building out your team of asset managers, accountants, operations, all those things, so that your property not only performs, right, but outperforms other people, because that is how you're going to get referrals for investors. That's how brokers are going to want to work with you, is that you buy deals, you improve them, and then you sell them, right? And investor communications, that's it's one thing to get referrals, that's great, but then also you just have to be out there, be in front of your investors monthly, quarterly, especially around tax season. And then if you get into the 20 million and plus area, institutional investors are going to be there, right? So institutional investors have bought or raised funds. They might have $1 billion sitting in their fund, and now they need to deploy that money, and so they're going to be competing with you. So those LOIs are going to be a lot more competitive. It's not just going to be you, and a couple, 2 or 3 other people bidding on that. There might be 10 people bidding on a deal that is a great deal. So. In terms of the case study, one of the people that I started working with, probably 2016, they started with smaller transactions. So the first deal they bought was a 100-unit deal. They did not have a track record, so they partnered with someone else who had a track record, and that allowed them to sign on that Fannie Mae loan together. They basically split that sponsorship group in half. And then from there, they went on and just bought bigger and bigger deals. So it went from 100, 150, 200, and last year they did 300 unit deals. And, it started small, right? It started in that $5 to $10 million range, but they built a track record with listing brokers by closing on time and on the terms presented. So they didn't, nickel and dime the listing broker, nickel and dime the seller, and they closed on time. They didn't request 5 extensions. They always had their equity ready to go. And they constantly, even if they didn't have the deal, they were constantly in front of investors, growing that investor base. And eventually now they have 10 plus properties, and on average about 200 units. So that is where I want you to get to, is getting over that 0 to 1 hump and then going from 1 to 10. That is the next step. So I wanted to just sort of wrap up and have you think about something that I wanted to call judgment. So that, I feel, is the number one skill of an investor. And the way that you do that is really building specific knowledge about either a market, right, or a property type. So start building that multifamily property type specific knowledge, and then also your specific knowledge, right? So when I was at GE, it was more, all commercial property types. And once I got into multifamily, for the last 5 years, has really been on multifamily and focused in on that. So you just know how to underwrite properties better. You know how to understand all the levers that you can push on a property. And nationwide versus investing in a specific market, I think, is key as well. So become an expert in something. What's your inside information? So whether that's looking at market data from different sources like Yardi, or if it's just being boots on the ground in a market and being in front of listing brokers, you got to figure out what your inside information is, and that gives you access to deals and capital. And then also think about who's the buyer after you. So you bought the deal at 80 a door and you think you're going to sell it at 100. Who's the buyer after you? Is it institutional? Is it just another smaller individual investor? Who's the buyer after you? Definitely always think about that, because you always need a exit plan on your deal. Even if you think you're going to hold the deal forever, you always need a exit plan. And you're just not going to be a great investor by just reading sort of headlines. You have to go to the source. So to me, the source is rent rolls, it's T12s, it's data providers that have on the ground knowledge about what's going on. So start tweaking where your information is coming from and have it be more specific to multifamily, have it be more specific to your market. And start building a smart network of people around you that can validate deals. So former underwriters, former originators, people who are closing deals in that market, because that is the most important thing. The best investors, a lot of times, when the deal comes across my desk, I get really excited. But be able to pace yourself in this business. It is a marathon, it's not a sprint. And actually, I would say it is a marathon, but it's made up of very small sprints. So every 30 to 60-day sprint that you're closing a deal, those are sprints, but think about it in a longer term time frame. And then this is why I like judgment, and this is why you need to work on it. Is judgment is the work you do before a deal arrives, so that your subconscious can process it quickly. And so I want to leave you with that. Thank you for building your judgment in this course. And if there's anything that I can do to help you, please let me know. Thank you very much.